Should you buy a big screen beyond micro OLED VR headset in 2024? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you my updated opinions on this headset, and it seems like a good time too, because I've got a very nice 5% discount code, which is running until the 14th of October. So the Bigscreen Beyond is a very impressive and pretty futuristic looking VR headset. It is the lightest VR headset on the planet and also, of course, the most comfortable, running micro OLED technology. That means you get the blackest of blacks and the most beautiful, deep, rich colors together with a 4K display across both eyes. And here's the thing, with this headset, it is scanned to your face, so you get your own bespoke facial interface with it, which makes the comfort even more crazy. And now I'm glad to say there is a new deluxe audio strap, which provides really excellent frequency, bass, loudness, treble, the whole works, as well as making the headset even more comfortable than it was before. And in a market where VR headsets are getting bigger, heavier and more expensive, it's interesting to see that the Bigscreen Beyond seems even more relevant now than when it was first released. It has its own little thing going on, quite literally, and there's just nothing like the Bigscreen Beyond. The experience of having such a light headset on your face with those OLED colours and that sharp display, it is quite simply a different experience than any other headset I've ever tried to date. Now, in terms of the field of view, which is something that interestingly puts people off the Bigscreen Beyond, it's the same as the Pimax Crystal, for me at least, at 102 degrees horizontal, which again is incredibly impressive when you see those tiny little micro OLED displays. Now, these custom pancake lenses, well, they are very nice. They are not perfect, guys, and this headset, of course, is not perfect. With this headset, because of that form factor, there is some trade-offs. The sweet spot, whilst you're in it, is absolutely fine, but it is a lot smaller than other pancake lens headsets. Don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as bad as Fresnel headsets such as the PSVR 2, the Reverb G2, but when comparing to the latest crop of pancake lenses, well, the sweet spot is definitely a lot smaller and you will have to move your head around a lot more than your eyes in this instance. Thankfully though, the headset is so light, it's like wearing a pair of glasses almost. That isn't a problem. There is also quite a bit of glare in this headset, and depending upon the application and the aircraft you're using, the glare can be very, very strong. Now, to put this into context, the aircraft I'm using today, which is the Just Flight 146 Professional, I didn't get hardly any glare problems with this flight, and that is because it's daytime and the steam gauges that I'm using doesn't really project too much high contrast and glare from the instrument panel. But if I was to say use a G1000 equipped aircraft, particularly say a Dusk or something like that, then there can be some glare, and quite a lot of it actually at times, in the headset. That depends on how important that is to you. For me, it can be quite jarring at times. And if you consider that every headset has some issue that makes it far from perfect, that is the issue with the Bigscreen Beyond that you need to consider. That is the glare. If it wasn't for that, this would have been my top VR headset ever since I got the prototype. And it's one of those headsets, and as you know I have many, that once I start using it, I'll end up using it for 2 or 3 weeks solid, because when I go back to anything else, even a Quest 3, it just feels like I've got a massive brick attached to my head. So really, the Bigscreen Beyond is the future of VR. This is what we all want, especially now it's got its own integrated audio solution. It's incredibly comfortable and has the most amazing OLED colors and incredibly sharp display. Now, just to let you know, in terms of my settings, I can super sample this headset to a crazy 4142 by 4142 with my RTX 4090. And that means I get an incredibly crisp, sharp image that is the same as the Pimax crystal, and it also helps widen that sweet spot a little bit. And due to the pancake lenses, there is less need for barrel distortion correction, so you're closer to that core resolution of about 2560, I think it is, by 2560, something around there. And it's a very nice resolution. Absolutely zero screen door effect, zero mirror as well. So there's a lot going for the Bigscreen Beyond, and it is absolutely in my top 3 best VR headsets for flight simulation right now, only rivaled by the likes of the Somnium VR1 and Varia XR4 in many ways, and perhaps the Pimax Crystal as well, although it's a very different type of headset. And really, if you are more bothered about that comfort, that bespoke custom form factor, and having those OLED black levels really starts to spoil you rotten, especially when you go back to an LCD headset that is a lot bigger on your head too. So other things to think about is the refresh rate of the headset. Now, for most people, you would think that a lower refresh rate is worse. Well, the great thing about the micro OLED technology is that 75 Hz feels fine. And I'm saying this from someone who is very susceptible to low refresh rates. I generally don't like anything under 90 Hz. But with the Bigscreen Beyond at 75 Hz, it still feels absolutely fine. And that also means that together with the less need for barrel distortion, you've also got a lesser target for your PC to hit at 75 frames per second, and you can actually with a 4090 run this at nearly full native frames per second in MSFS 2020. But the best thing to do is to lock the frame rate to around 37 frames per second. I think it's 37.5 or around there, and that way it actually feels very smooth, and it's a lot lower target to hit than the usual 45 frames per second which I mentioned with other VR headsets. However, there is an option for 90 Hz upscaled mode as well, which does look pretty damn good. Not quite as sharp, I must say, but still more than adequate. It's also worth noting that the brightness of the Bigscreen Beyond, that is another area where it's not so great. Personally, for me, it's not an issue, and there is an option to change the brightness in the Steam VR settings. I've found it's fine. If you go really crazy with the brightness, then you can hear the fan kicking in, which can be a little bit annoying. But for me personally, I like to run a little bit lower, which also helps with persistence. Now, this is unapologetically a PC VR headset with the lightest form factor, most comfortable feeling, and best OLED colours in the business. Bigscreen Beyond have definitely targeted the most important factors that we all love in VR. A great image, amazing colours, great performance, and a bespoke, comfortable solution, including its own facial interface which you scan using, I believe, an iPhone still. But what's the best feature of this headset for me? You can drink a cup of tea without taking the VR headset off. And I often do that. Gone are the days where you need to use a straw or take their VR headset off to have that very nice sip of coffee. Oh no, you can do it in this headset because it's so tiny. So really, to conclude, I really still do recommend this headset. Unfortunately, it does have some glare issues and the sweet spot can be quite small, but it's one of those things that you do tend to get used to some of those trade-offs, especially when everything else is so much better than any other VR headset. That is the OLED 4K display, and that form factor is absolutely everything. And not that it really matters, but I think it's the coolest looking VR headset on the planet, especially with that very nice LED, which you can change, by the way. I prefer green, but you can have blue, purple, any colour you want. So I'll leave you with this landing at London Heathrow in the 146 Professional by Just Flight. As I say, I do have a 5% discount. It's running until October the 14th. Go grab it now if you're thinking about it. And thank you so much for watching as always. I truly appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again for more content very, very soon. Bye bye for now.